I'm Isabel Chubshaw
Hi.
from the Guildford Dragon News, and today I'm here with Robin Simpson, an actor and storyteller currently performing in Catherine Dyson's one-man show, The Last Picture, which is playing at the Yvonne Arnaud Theatre from the 5th to the 7th of March. Thank you very much, Robin, for taking the time to speak with me today.
Very pleased to meet you. How do you do?
The Last Picture is a one-man show told from the perspective
Yes.
of an emotional dog called Sam, and that's who you're playing in this performance. And Sam accompanies a year nine school trip to a Holocaust photography exhibition throughout the performance. So my first question to you, Robin, is what first drew you into the role of Sam and Catherine's script?
I thought it was one of the most beautiful scripts I'd ever read, in all honesty. And I'm not just saying that. I did a rehearsed reading of it last year at York Theatre Royal. It had already been planned to be produced by York Theatre Royal, but we did a reading of it last year. And I wasn't cast at the time. I was just a local actor that they called in and asked me to do it. And I genuinely thought it was just the most gorgeous, beautifully, subtly written, fantastic script. One of the best scripts I've ever read. And so I said to John, the director, John Wilkinson, I said, listen, if you do need anyone to come and do this early next year, then, do think of me. And thank goodness he did.
Obviously it's from the perspective of a dog rather than a human. What challenges came with telling the story from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously had discussions early on about how dog-like, a performance it needs to be, and we had a lovely movement director come in, and we did lots of dog movements and things like that. Nothing too obvious, but just
Mm.
about a dog's energy and how they move their eyes and how they hold their heads, and just little things like that. And there's some of that still in the show. But however, we decided in the end that it's good enough that at the beginning of the show, I just tell the audience that I'm a dog. The way in which she uses the animal to sort of take a step back from
Mm.
the humanness of
Mm.
this tragedy, to sort of cast an outside eye on it, especially in relation to the images that we look at or imagine, because the dog describes in detail what's going on in the images,
Mm.
but not the why or wherefore.
Mm.
So I'm just explaining to you,
Yeah,
a human audience, and
yeah.
I do keep reminding the audience that they are human and I am not.
Mm.
That what they are looking at something that other humans did to other humans.
Did you find it
Sorry.
challenging to handle such emotionally charged material, whilst kind of retaining that removed perspective and neutrality that Catherine wanted?
Yeah, yeah, it is quite challenging because obviously it is very moving material, and you can't help but be emotionally connected to it. The dog, Sam, is not totally detached, of course, because it's an emotional support dog. She she on purposely chose an emotional support dog so that I could comfort in a way and take care of the audience in the show and make sure it's not too overpowering, make
Mm.
sure it's not too overbearing. However, it's very important, I think, in the play, and we all sort of agree on this, that the dog does become quite detached from it. And also, there's a thing, I think, when you're performing that if you want the audience to be emotionally involved, then the less you do as a performer, the more involved they are. So we don't want the audience in this show to become observers. They have to very much be part of the action. And the play is written that way. So I will constantly ask the audience to look at an image which I've described, and then I will remind them that they're not just an audience in the theatre, but they're also a class of year nine students. And then I'll also remind them that they're not just a class of year nine students, they're also the people in the picture,
Yeah.
in the street, or in the forest, or in
Mm.
the camp, or standing at the edge of a pit, or whatever it may be.
What do you hope the audience will get out of the performance?
I hope that they see a great piece of drama because I think it is, without, blowing my own trumpet too much. But she's written a fantastic play. It is a fantastic play. But I also think that they leave with a feeling of hope. The play does end on a message of hope. It is, after all, about the next generation, and the play does keep bringing up not only animals, but also children and how children can be affected by these terrible situations in life, but that the next generation hopefully won't make the same mistakes that the present generation is making.
You mentioned that during your preparation process, you, with the movement director, and you're, well, at the start, you're working on how can I portray a dog in a particular way. Did you also do any sort of historical research?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at a lot of research. I mean, not just World War II and the Holocaust in particular, but also the roles of emotional support animals as well, and how dogs think and see and feel, and also about how people, not just the public, go through museums or exhibitions, but also how the people who design exhibitions and museums design them. The play very much is structured as one of those exhibitions. So yeah, we did a lot of research on lots of that, but Catherine herself wrote the play because she has family members that fled
Yes.
from Germany just after the Second World War, and she felt very, obviously powerfully about that, and she wanted to write it for her family, really.
Have you done much one-man shows before?
Apart from my storytelling, not so much. This is my first sort of scripted one-man show. Yeah,
At the end of the day, I know it's a lot to do with the imagination of the audience and what they can
yeah,
kind of conjure in their
yeah.
own imaginations, but whatever you are saying is what is conjuring that emotion. So yeah, what was the main challenge for you there?
Honestly, the main challenge was learning the lines. Because it's a one-person show, you don't have that ability. You don't have other actors coming on. So if you lose your spot, you don't have other actors that remind you, oh, it's this bit. I know which bit I'm doing. And because it's quite an episodic piece, this, in a way, because we're going from one room in the exhibition to another room, then to another room, and then to another room, it's quite easy to go, where am I?
Yeah, yeah,
And there's no help,
yeah.
and there's no set or anything. There's no
No.
the sound of the sound we've got in this play is lovely, but it's very muted, and it's just there to support what I'm saying, as are the lights. So there's not as if there's any sound cue or anything that can
No.
help me. So that's the largest change between what I usually do and what this is. This is very much a play, but it's done in the style of a storytelling performance. So I'm usually much more free form. If I do my storytelling, I will write a story, adapt a story, basically a devised piece, whereas this very much wasn't.
Every night, each performance, how much do you alter the way in which you perform? Do you play with it quite a lot, or do you try and stick to what you've rehearsed?
Try and stick to it, which is not something I would usually do in my storytelling. I
Mm.
would discover, and the more I would perform it, I would discover new things and go, oh, that's interesting. I'll do that. Or I'd just mess around and see, because all audiences are different. Um, but this, no, I definitely try to stick with it. It is, John has got me moving around the space in a very particular way. And it's all very subtle. The writing is so subtle, and what I'm doing is has
And
been directed so subtly as well.
yeah, because of the nature of the subject of the performance and the play. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want what you don't want is my performance to get in the way of it.
Mm.
Everything has got to be in the service of Catherine's words, really. Everything that is done with the lights or the sound or the costume has to be in service of me being in service of the words. So it's kind of the words are the most important thing with a play like this because there's almost literally nothing else.
I've got a more general question now about theatre because this performance clearly, and multiple, I've read a few reviews about the show, and multiple reviews have said how this play, this performance really tests the limits of theatre. My question is, to you, what is the importance of using theatre as a means of storytelling, but specifically to break those typical narrative boundaries?
Yes, gosh. I think what's nice about this show and theatre in general is we've had discussions about this. It's like when you go to watch a movie, for example, you're being very much told often how to feel, how to think. And then you've got another thing like a novel, for example, where apart from the words themselves, you're being asked to imagine almost all of it. And then you've got theatre, which varies. somewhere in the middle. And with this show, you're very much being asked to do an awful lot of it because I'm simply saying the words. I'm not wearing any, I'm not changing costumes or pretending to be other people. Occasionally I'll jump in and out of character, but it's very, very slight. We're not seeing any of the images, although they're all real photographs. Like I said earlier, each audience member will have a different idea of what they're seeing. They will picture a different person, a different place or whatever. And so they're being asked to do a lot of imaginative work. And whenever it feels like it's just getting too much work for them, whenever it feels like I'm asking maybe a little bit too much of them, then we pull it straight back and say, remember, we're just in a theatre and we're just pretending.
Have you spoken to many members of the public
Mm.
afterwards and asked them what was conjured up in their imagination and whether or not that did fit quite well to the pictures that you are describing?
But having spoken to lots of audience members after the show, we even mentioned this in the play, actually. There's something about looking at image after image after image, especially black and white images, which, of course, most of these will be. And you do find yourself detaching emotionally from them because it's all so long ago, because they're not in color. I think what the use of the imagination in the show does is it very much makes that connection that it makes that connection very strong, and that those children in the pictures, or the parents, or the toddlers, or we even talk about a lot of the what happened to a lot of the animals during that time. I think it makes those connections much stronger if you're being asked to imagine them rather than just look at a series of pictures on a wall or in a book. Not that then that's not worthwhile, of course it is. But we say towards the end, you've seen so many of these pictures that they don't seem real. Whereas if I have to stop the action of the play, of the story, and just say, but we are going to stop and we are going to imagine for just 20, 30 seconds as a room of people that we are now these people. We're not going to move on. And I will not continue this play until we have all sat here and tried to imagine what it was like, which obviously is intentionally slightly uncomfortable. But if we even go even a slight, tiny inch of the way towards making people feel or understand even a little bit more about what it was like to live in those times, then hopefully we've succeeded.
And a slightly more light-hearted question now. What was it like working with the director, John Wilkinson? Was it quite a dialogue between the two of you? Or how did it all work?
Yes, it was very much a dialogue. It was very funny actually because I'd just come off from doing the pantomime in York, which is a whole different. Obviously, it's a very different style of show, but also you're in a huge cast and you've got the ensemble cast, the dancers and the movers behind you. You've got the band down, you've got all the crew, you're in the main house, you've got the lights, the special effects. And then I ended up going, literally just having a day off. And then I went into the studio of the same theatre, and there was myself and there was John and there was Jane, our wonderful stage manager. And that was it. That was the largest sort of shock for me, was just going from this huge machine to this very small, very
Into
thought-provoking piece. But working with John was a fantastic experience. It's my first time working with him. I've known him for years, but it's my first time actually working with him as a director, which is great. And the three of us in the room just bashed out some ideas, and we had a wonderful creative team as well, lighting designer and designer, and like I say, movement director and sound artist, and they would come in once a week every so often and show this is what we're going to do with the lights and this is what we're going to do with the sound. Brilliant. Thank you very much. But yes, it was a lovely experience just having basically
Mm.
three creative people.
Well, thank you very much, Robin, for speaking to me.
Thank
I
you.
wish you the best of luck in your performances at the Yvonne Arnaud. For anyone
Thank you.
watching, tickets are still available, so do book them in advance for the last picture. which is being performed in Guildford from the 5th to the 7th of March. And I am coming to watch on the
Great.
7th, and I'm actually doing a dragon review for it. So I'm looking forward to
Oh,
that a
great.
lot.